Welcome to Go Home Heat, a wrestling podcast. A little fired up here. We are doing a quick review. We will analyze. I'm sure that I'm going to get Nick,
just call him Nick,
the movie guy, and to go over that last match at some point. We may do a whole little quick, just one-on-one episode between me and him at some point this week and put it out there. But right now, I have the Go Home Heat Kid Ray and me giving you a quick little run over of what happened tonight and what we think about what happened tonight. We start out by telling you it was a WWE special event on the network, Extreme Rules, the horror show, and you did not like the New Orleans color scheme that went with it.
No, I don't really think that this pay-per-view screamed New Orleans to me. Like, I get the whole swamp thing, but you don't just put a swamp in there and call it New Orleans. That's like just throwing corn in a ring and saying, "Oh, now we're live in Iowa." And it's like, no, that's not.
Well, if you threw corn in the ring, you would be live in Iowa. Immediately, no matter where you were in the world, if you just put ears of corn around it, you're suddenly in Iowa. It's like if you give a match 17 stars, you're in the Tokyo Dome.
Especially in a place where you can't, like, do anything.
Did you see what I did there?
Ha.
If you give a match 17 stars, you're in the Tokyo Dome, no matter where you are. Huh?
Which makes sense.
Even if you're in Jacksonville?
Which makes sense because Kenny Okada was the 7-star match. That was in Osaka J Hall.
See? Now you're smelling what I'm putting down.
This is
You're stepping in it.
what we're talking about.
Okay. Okay, pre-show, Kevin Owens versus Murphy. You had a statement before that started. It's a long tradition of what?
Putting the best match on the pre-show.
At least two of the best wrestlers. Okay, this was great. It was...
They've been doing this since WrestleMania 2019 with Mustafa Ali versus Cedric Alexander.
Yes, it is. It is. If you want to get people pumped up for a pay-per-view, you put the best wrestlers in the ring together before the pay-per-view starts.
And also have the best match.
It's a theme. But they had a banger. They had a good little match.
Yeah. They had a good.
It was really good. I'd love to see them get into it.
As much as we joke, I probably wouldn't call this the best match on the card. As much as we joke.
Correct. But they also we would love to see this redone sometime with something on the line at a big pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens pulled off the leaping moonsault at his age, which is pretty in size. It is pretty impressive. And he gets a super kick stunner for the win.
Positives. This match had really good wrestling. Negatives, it didn't really have a lot of storytelling, which, that's
well, the story is that Kevin's got a problem with Seth. And they've been wrestling back and forth.
It's kind of like a throwaway match, it didn't feel important, but it's not supposed to. But,
I will say this, though. I like it when they give me two really good wrestlers on the pre-show because it gives them time to wrestle and stretch it out. And a lot of times you'll put some of those smaller matches in a pay-per-view and they don't give them the time and it winds up with a lot of times with this company, your pay-per-view matches have wonky finishes. Mm-hmm. So you get a clean finish a lot of times in a pre-show, which is good. So you actually get a match, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Total rating 3.9 out of 5 stars.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, now we're getting to the show itself. Cesaro and Nakamura versus the New Day, Kofi and Big E. We get a high-energy performance here. Its tag team titles are on the line. It's a tables match. Whoever goes to a table first wins. These are some of the most talented wrestlers in the world. Kofi is going crazy, and then the script gets flipped a little bit. Big E gets put into a what would you call that combo move by Cesaro and Nakamura when Cesaro's spinning him around?
Death.
Yeah, Cesaro does the spin around thing where if there was a crowd there, they count to 10, and then Nakamura hits him with the Kinshasa right there on the heels of it, And we wind up with a Big E that can't wrestle anymore during the match. Kofi goes crazy, and he's got Cesaro, and they've already stacked 2 tables on top of each other, and they're on the top turnbuckle in the corner. It looks as if Kofi's going to pull this off, and no. Cesaro flips the switch. Shinsuke kicks Kofi in the stomach, and we have ourselves Kofi going through 2 tables stacked on top of each other. Nakamura gets to be tag team champions for the first time. Cesaro will be tag champions for the 7th time. Wonderful.
I really liked this match.
How many stars? Was it better than the other one?
I'd give it a 3.9.
3.9.
I'd give it another 3.9. Even though this is a high 3.9.
Right. Moving on to Nikki versus Bayley. It was the boss outside the ring with Bayley and Alexa outside. Alexa's going to be interfering in a lot of matches tonight. Little did we know that she would be interfering later. Okay, so Nikki and Bayley get into it. It's a great match. The women in this company wrestle extremely well. They tell the story of how much they dislike each other and why. Bayley uses Nikki moves. Nikki uses Bayley moves. And then we have the shenanigans that are famous. And Sasha gets on the apron. She slips her boss knuckles, which are like brass knuckles, but they actually say boss on her hand. She slips them to Bayley, jumps on the ring apron, distracts the referee. Nikki gets caught with a right uppercut to the rib cage and then gets planted. What you call that move? What's Bayley's finisher?
I like to call it. It was EC3's finisher.
EC3's finisher is what we'll call it.
Exactly.
But it's a good finisher.
It's a good finish, yeah.
Absolutely. She puts Nikki away there with the shenanigans, and we'll take it. Now, MVP does not have to wrestle in a match for the United States title because Apollo is injured or something and can't be there. We don't know whether this is a way to get around the fact that he's got COVID or maybe he does have a lingering injury. Either way, we're going to just hold off on thinking too much about this until tomorrow night. There has to be a reason. They may have just thought they didn't have enough time to do it, but Apollo hasn't been on TV in a little while. It's weird, and of course the internet had me all of a sudden thinking in conspiracies that it's COVID or something, which is probably a sprained ankle instead. Now, going back, did you want to rank the Nikki Bayley thing at all, or you want to leave it alone?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I will. I'll rate this one more of a 3.8.
Okay, 3.8.
Like, I liked it, but like, it's one day we just gotta get rid of the shenanigans. Someday, you know?
Yes. Evidently not in any company that I watch, but yes.
It's just one day I wish. It's like Cesaro becoming WWE champion. It's like one day.
That's why I like New Japan to some degree. And that's why when the Bullet Club gets involved,
but that's another problem with New Japan too. Like the
Bullet Club gets involved and it's a WWE.
They don't usually do it. Right. But when they do it, it's a lot more noticeable.
Right. Yeah, okay, so we're going to move on to the next match at the House of Horrors. This is part of the horror portion of your show. The Monday Night Messiah versus the GOAT, Rey Mysterio, the greatest luchador of them all, for an eye. The winner plucks the other's eyeball out of his head. So I'm pretty excited because I know what I'm looking for here. I'm getting anybody ever see Kane's horror movie? When the bird plucks his eyeball out of his head?
The one you had to...
Yes. May 13th?
May 19th, yeah.
Yeah. I was scheduled to get married, but I moved it so I could go see Kane.
No, you... I thought you said you didn't like Kane.
Right.
But,
I actually moved. We just kind of moved. What was it?
We moved... I don't know.
I think Ariel... I think Ray's older sister said to us that we couldn't get married on that day because it was the same day as the horror movie was going to be released, and that wouldn't make sense. But anyway, that's funny. Okay, but anyway, so Seth approaches the ring with pliers, and it sets the tone there early. I just want to say that halfway into this match, I wrote down, this is really great. Their wrestling was great in this. I mean, they were cheating the whole time because, and Ray was cheating too. I mean, you're literally, in theory, these guys are literally fighting for their eyeballs. You know what I mean? And so every time somebody gets the advantage, they go for the eye. There's an eye gouge involved. Seth is getting thrown all over the place. I don't know if anybody sells better than Rey Mysterio. And it's funny because Seth's really good at that too. So them in a match where they're going over steps and they're going into plexiglass, and they're both, Rey Mysterio gets to do a curb stomp. Right as he gets a curb stomp on Seth, and he gets Seth in the position that he lost, that he had his eye injury from earlier, that set up this whole train of events. He's got Seth ready to go. Seth's face and eyeball are pinned against the steps, and Seth goes with the calf to the balls move, which puts Ray into the barricade. Seth kicks him in the chest when he's in the barricade. It's fairly brutal looking. It sounded good. And then he gets the curb stomp, and then he gets Ray into that position, and he pokes. He puts Ray's head over the steps, pushes Ray's head against the steps to the point where we don't actually see it, but we are told Ray's eye comes out of his head. Seth pulls away in terror as if he has done this. Actually, he gets physically sick and throws up outside of the ring because he has seen a man's eye removed. And I felt like it was a good match. I felt like the ending was a little disappointing in that I kind of was told I was going to watch a guy's eyeball get plucked out of his head going into this. And when that didn't really happen, it was a little disappointment. You know?
But
so the finish wasn't what I was hoping for, because I thought if we're bringing pliers to the ring, somebody's eyeball is leaving. But other than that, I thought it was a good match. You?
I'd rate it 4 stars.
Really? Even with all that wonkiness? In a gimmick match?
Wait, which match are we talking about?
Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins.
Oh, I'll give it a 3.9.
Okay.
It got a little wonky in some places, but Seth and Rey Mysterio.
Right. That was the key.
There's only so bad those guys can really get together.
Right. And Rey is wrestling. Like, I hope Rey gets his eye back.
The only way this could have been bad is if there was a road to victory situation.
Tell me what that is.
Oh, the Jeff Hardy thing with Sting.
Oh, but neither one of them does drugs, so they're good that we know of. Knock on wood. But but yes, you know, as long as they did announce later in the show,
as long as they're physically okay
and they're given enough time, they'll put on a show.
Dude, they don't even have to be given enough time.
Right.
Like, you give them 5 minutes and they'll probably.
I agree.
Out, you know.
So let's go with next. We have Bayley. We cut to Bayley, and she gives a quick promo and wants Rey Mysterio to know she feels for him, but he doesn't have to worry. He's not seeing double vision because she is Bayley Dose Straps. And we are told later on in the episode that Rey does. There is a chance they'll save the eye, and it's good because he's wrestling at a high level right now. I'd like to see him to be, although Crazy Steve's a pretty good wrestler and he's blind on Impact Wrestling, so we'll see where that goes. Swamp Video setting up the Swamp match, and then it's on to Asuka versus Sasha. We have 2 of the great female workers in all of the world, actually just 2 of the great workers in all of the world. Great match.
Yeah, in a still living sense.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes. Well, if they were okay.
Well, yeah. If they were dead,
they wouldn't work that well.
Working.
Okay. All right. So great match, and then we get a wonky finish because that's how this things go. And As the referee is distressed, Sasha and the ref are arguing. Kairi Sane, who's on the outside of the ring, slips Asuka the green mist. They let you see that, obviously. Sasha turns to walk into the green mist, ducks, which means that the referee gets green misted. He cannot see a thing. And then Bayley takes over, hurts, passes the belt to Sasha. We get a spank upside the head or something like that. And then we get Bayley taking over, ripping the referee's shirt off, counting to 3 herself, and anointing her best friend champion. And now they have all the belts. And I'm not 100% sure that's how that works. We'll have to see.
I mean, Stone Cold did it, didn't he?
Huh?
Stone Cold did it, didn't he?
Stone Cold did it.
Yeah.
And Bayley is Stone Cold. This generation Stone Cold. So many different ways. When Stone Cold came down to the rings with the airmen,
didn't
on the side, the big airmen like they have outside of the car.
Wasn't that like so what great. We called Becky? In this generation Stone
Yeah, but I was kidding about Bayley. And I was kidding about Becky too.
Yeah.
And I'd be kidding about anybody that's Stone Cold. Although Dean Mox, he kind of does that a little bit.
But like, yeah,
I'll digress.
He doesn't have that type of care. You know, he's not that.
Stone Colds don't grow on trees.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, they've literally been trying to grow Stone Cold on trees since like generations. So.
There can be only one. Since he broke his neck, right? Or since he had to quit. Anyway.
Yeah, they wanted John Cena to be Stone Cold so bad he became John Cena. You know.
Bingo. Drew McIntyre versus Dolph, and the stipulation for this Extreme Rules match is that the Extreme Rules are only for Dolph, and that Drew can get counted out or disqualified and still lose his belt.
I didn't rate the
rate the match, Ray.
The Nikki.
Rate the
Nikki Sasha.
Asuka Sasha. You didn't rate it.
The Asuka Sasha.
Rate it, Ray.
I'll rate it 3.9. I know, but I know it's just a personal thing. But the wonky finish is just.
I get it. I get it. You can't give it a 4. The wrestling's so good, you want to give it a 4.
Yeah.
The ending is so wonky, you can't. I get it, dude. I get it. I'm with you on that too. So far, everything we've seen, the wrestling's been so good, but the only cleanish leads us to Drew McIntyre and Dolph. They ring the bell. Joe is so good during this thing. He's telling us that Drew's going to slip up because he can't be cheated against basically the whole match and not lose his cool. He's a Scottish psychopath for a reason. And then you get Drew is getting beat up the whole time. He flips the script. He starts to win for a little while, and then it really gets physical on him the next time around when Dolph gets the advantage. Dolph puts him through a table. But no, actually Dolph gives him an elbow while he's on a table. They both come up with bloody backs and elbows from that spot. And Drew takes many tough spots over the course of this thing and then winds up, of course, Dolph with the why won't you die, why won't you die, I'm going to super kick you into your memories, and he walks into a Claymore and gets the loss. Ray, what did you think?
I thought this match was good, right?
Mm-hmm.
The victor was a little predictable, but you know.
Right.
Dolph never wins, dude.
It also had a Cena-esque burial feel, but Dolph gets buried all the time anyway, so does it matter?
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait to put that Cena crown on him until he
buries somebody else.
Until he buries a new talent, and until he buries somebody, not until he.
Right, because when he beats Seth, you know, after he beats Brock, he fights Drew later that night, right at Mania.
Like what was the what was the point where everyone started to dislike Cena?
I can't remember, but it was long after a bunch of no sells.
Yeah, it was like...
But that was the role he was playing, too. It was like he was doing that because he wanted... I mean,
all it took for... And I'll give you a more recent example. All it took for people to dislike Roman is one promo.
But also the way he was booked.
That did not help, but I do believe that promo was the starting point where everybody realized... Where everybody thought, this guy ain't all that yet.
Well... I will go back, though. Drew's doing pretty good on the promo
Drew
thing.
is doing good, and I don't see him going down that same moment because he is fully developed now.
Right. And the guys he's gone over, like the Seths and the Big Shows and the other guys he's feuded with, haven't disappeared. Seth's still a big part of the show. Big Show is now in a thing with Randy Orton. So it's, Dolph...
Dolph's kind of Dolph's entire place, right?
Right. Goldberg beat him with like 30 seconds and then beat him again
Goldberg beat him, Kofi beat him.
Quickly, too. Okay, so let's move on because...
No, I'll give it... I'll rate this...
Rate it, buddy.
I'll rate it... I guess I'll rate it a 4. Actually...
Really?
Actually, hold on.
It was a clean finish for an Extreme Rules.
It was a very clean finish. I'm thinking between 4 and 3.5 because even though I did like the wrestling, I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5, not 3.5, 3.9.
Okay.
Because even though I did like the wrestling, it was very predictable.
So you've liked the bulk of this show, though. Everything's been 3.8, 3.9.
All
the wrestling's been good. All the finishes been a little wonky, except for 2 matches.
Because I want to give like most of the show a 4 out of 10. 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. I loved it. 4 out of 5. Okay.
I want to give most of it a 4 out of 5, but
awesome.
I just can't because the flaws are so obvious.
And they're all at the end.
They're all
right
at the end, and they're all kind of connected.
Right, I get it. Now let's move to the main event, the cinematic show of the Swamp Fight. And at this point, I'm now completely confused. I don't know if there was a title on the line. There was no referee anywhere near the match. Braun drives to the Swamplands. Bray is waiting for him as the Swamp Cult leader. And at the Wyatt, I would guess you could call it a compound if you wanted to, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
And he's in a rocking chair. Braun stops the truck, gets out. Mm-hmm. They get into it a little bit verbally. Bray disappears, and Bray has minions that fight Braun for a moment or two until something happens, and Braun winds up fighting himself. Mm-hmm. Right, and again, now this is a movie we're watching. This is not a wrestling match, and you realize that fairly early on. And he fights himself for a second, and then he winds up in a wheelchair in some form of a workshop thing where there are baby arms that are from plastic dolls.
I think they just kind of did that to make it look creepy.
There's a jar full of eyeballs to the right.
Yeah, I think Bray just kind of did that to say, I wanted this to look creepy.
Well, the Wyatt compound's always been a creepy place.
Well, yeah, but I don't think it was like... I think the Wyatt compound, what it used to be, was just like an old beaten down, rundown
shed by a bayou, right?
By a bayou,
right.
And it never really had all that stuff in,
right?
Like you could go, say, into the forests and you could find a house just like the ones that they're living in,
right. And so we wind up with Braun in a rocking chair, chained to said rocking chair. Mm-hmm. Bray gives a incredible promo.
Dude, what's crazy about this is...
Go ahead.
There's a point in this match that you realize this guy should have never had to go through the crap he had to go through to get here. This guy...
Bray,
yeah.
The swamp leader character should have never had to go away, you're telling me.
Yes, the swamp thing. It should have worked first time.
It did.
But it did work.
Yeah.
It worked until John Cena
Well, that was the point of the last match, right?
Yeah, it worked until John Cena kind of...
By the way, if you think we don't like Cena, of course we like Cena.
We freaking love Cena.
Back to the match.
You know, and I'm probably going to get,
it's
how you like John Cena, but, he's a great wrestler.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he has his classics.
Right.
But,
back to the match.
But, yeah, back to this one. It was going to work. And it did work. The original put down was John Cena, but Bray could do that, and then he lost to Taker.
Yeah.
Then he lost to Dean.
Yeah.
Then he lost to the only guy he beat was Seth.
Right.
The only guy he ever beat was Seth.
Right.
Like, he lost against so many people, and none of this is his fault.
Right. But then he recreates himself in this Fiend character.
All of it.
But he's allowed to go back into that role today, and as he's giving this speech, you blurt it out.
Even then, he freaking lost to Goldberg.
Right, but
it's like he's trying to stop. It's like Vince is trying to stop Bray from being big when it's like inevitable.
He can't.
He can't. Like,
to Vince's credit, and to what you're talking about, and you blurted out during that speech he gave, the promo. Can you believe he hasn't done this character in years? And he's still this good at this character, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, to
I was
Vince,
just going to bring that up.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
To Vince's credit, he stayed out of the way and let Bray do this thing. Now, then we get Sister Abigail, and Sister Abigail is bringing a serpent. The serpent bites Bray, and I guess he has some form of
he bites Braun.
I'm sorry, he does bite Braun, and then Braun comes to in an area near a bonfire where he fights more minions, and then he thinks Sister Abigail is at the pier. It is not. It is Alexa Bliss, his former. We told you Alexa was here to interfere. His former tag team partner. Go ahead.
I thought the first time I saw this, did they just really tell us that Alexa Bliss was Sister Abigail? Oh, okay.
Right.
That's like if I swear if they were gonna say that Alexa Bliss was Sister Abigail, I was gonna get up and punch that TV.
Right, but a little bit of the storytelling aspect of it is that they were tag team partners, and that's when Braun starts to be accepted as somebody that's not just a monster.
Yeah, I get it.
Right. And so then we get the brawl, and they brawl into the water, and he slams Bray into a canoe.
Into the canoe, which the more I think about that spot, the worse it hurts.
Yeah.
Like, the more you, like, all the spots a canoe has to sit. Ow.
Yeah.
The fact that it's on water, so there's no way you're gonna get a perfect drop. Ow.
Right.
The fact that Braun Strowman slams you. Ow.
Right.
The height. Ow. Like, like.
So then the boat goes away because Braun hits the motor on it, and it comes back with no Bray in it. Bray is behind him. He hits him with an oar off the boat. They fight back onto the pier, and then Bray manages to grab a hold of an axe handle, hits him with that a couple of times. Then, for a moment, Bray's kinder side from the Funhouse shows up. It says, I didn't want to do this. We'll look into that more when we get Nick. Braun kicks him off. He thinks he's drowned or whatever. He says, I'm done. I've won. They give you the little Extreme Rules thing in the bottom of the screen of your TV to let you think it's going to be over. And lo and behold, a Fiend claw comes out of the water. But it's not the Fiend yet, I don't think, because I've only watched it once. I'll watch it again before we do this again with Lit Nick. He grabs Braun by the mouth, pulls him under the water. The water goes red, and we go, why is it? Ray said, he literally said, why is the water red? But he was implying the water's red because the Fiend is coming, and that is exactly what happened.
I also predicted that the Fiend was coming out. Mm-hmm. But positives about this match. It is so good. It's just so theatrical, and
you loved it.
I loved it. Yes,
I did too.
I'm gonna rate this one 4.3.
4.3
because it's getting negatives. There's not a lot of big negatives, but this is kind of a worse version of the John Cena match at WrestleMania.
Really?
Like, not... Like, yeah, I get they're trying to go after a whole Braun's career thing.
Right.
But Braun doesn't really have much of a career up until this point, so they can't really do what they did with John. And also, I don't know if this qualifies as, like, a match.
I don't think it's a match at all.
You know, I don't know.
I don't even think Braun... I don't think they ever explained to me whether or not... And maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to get with us on Twitter at Go Home Heat on Twitter. But... in the wrestling Twitter realm, and tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think they're gonna lose. He's gonna lose the belt here. I think we just have the Fiend back because the Fiend arises out of the water, guys, and that's when we cut to credits and it's over.
Which again kind of draws more comparisons to the Cena match, how the Fiend won after that, and how you know, the more I think about it, the more comparisons I draw to that Cena match, and the more.
But we'll dive into all that a little
how
deeper.
Much better the Cena match is.
Yeah.
But this doesn't mean that the Braun match is bad.
Yeah.
Not at all. But those are the two problems that I kind of have with it.
Yeah.
It's too similar to the John Cena thing, and I don't know if it really qualifies as a match. So I wouldn't feel right giving it like a 4.7, you know?
Right. Out of 12.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I really enjoyed it. How would
enjoyed it too.
How would you rate the whole show?
The whole show, out of 5 or out of 10?
Either way.
I'd rate this show probably a 4.
Out of 5.
I'd probably rate it, because I'd rate it, you know what, I'd rightly rate it a 4 out of 5. You know, all the matches were good, but there are some overarching problems throughout the whole pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
correct.
Very, very problems that you can cross with each other, and that's the only just main problem that that's the only main gripe that I have with it. And maybe it'll age better Maybe I'll notice it better.
I feel like I'm gonna watch that swamp thing like 3 times.
Like 3 times, yeah.
Just to kind of get my head around everything that's in it and all the little things that I missed.
Maybe I'm wrong about the John Cena thing. You know?
No, I mean I get it. To me, it's apples and oranges. Don't compare. But I get where, since we're doing cinematic matches and this is Bray's realm, how can you not in a way compare? So I get what you're doing too.
But
I don't have a problem with either
my
way.
problem was kind of, you know, they kind of tried to do the Braun's career over a thing, but Braun's career is not as storied, and I'm going to be completely honest here, nor probably will ever be as interesting as John Cena's.
But now I will say this. We've seen a side of Braun.
We have.
That we have not seen prior to when he was with...
Like he's unlocked something.
Right.
That he did not have before.
Before he was a silent killer working for Bray in a way, you know what I mean, or being sent out to do the dastardly deeds. Then he became this good guy that gets mad every now and then.
Yeah.
Now he was unhinged on Friday night, and if he comes back really unhinged, because that's the point of the Fiend, right? Mm-hmm. The point of the Fiend is to turn you to something that is your true self.
Yes, but let me rephrase what I said earlier. When I said there is one overarching problem.
What's that?
What I said earlier. You know, all the finishes are wonky.
Right.
And there's always something wrong with each of the matches that can't
be overlooked.
Overlooked, you know. And it's a good pay-per-view.
Right. I had a fun time.
I had a really fun time.
Right. Okay, good deal. Then for Go Home Eat Kid Ray.
And you.
And for me, KP.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap this thing up. Copyright 2020.
Go home.
Awesome.